In the previous lecture we saw that we added a new attribute for year that has to be an integer, and we saw what happens when we call it the setter year with something that's not a number, that's not an integer. We get an exception like this. So how do we test the script? How do we test the module that will now want to make sure that this actually throwing the exception happens? So it sort of might be strange, but now the fact that it throws an exception when the user gives an incorrect value, that's part of the API. You want to make sure that whatever changes will happen later on to this class, this exception will happen. So someone won't remove it by accident trying to improve some other part. And this is the test script. So what we had here is we added the accessors, the getters and the setters for the year with good values, and they were expecting them to work. But in order to test an exception, we used a new module called test exception. That fits in nicely into the test more world. It provides us with extra functions. So now we have a new function called throws OK that comes from this module, the test exception. It behaves similar to the is function, so which will print out OK or not OK depending on its success or failure. But it does a slightly different thing. It gets three parameters. The first one is a block. This is the block that's going to be executed. The second one is a regular expression that should be matched by the exception that was thrown here. And the third one is just a name that's like here, the setter and getter, and the one that I missed out here. So you have these three parameters of throw OK. And just pay attention, there is no comma after this block. So this is a regular expression used with QR, and you have to make sure that you escape the parentheses, for example, because they have meaning in regular expressions, but not. But we want to make sure that we match that. And this is the full string. You don't see the whole thing. Now we do, and this is the full string that we're trying to match. So this is how it works. And if we switch over to this screen, this is person 02 needs to be, so I'll go to person 02, and if I run prove -lt, then you'll see that everything is fine. If you run it with verbose mode, then you'll see the same. You see that the exception is the name of this test, and here there are no names because I didn't add that. You don't see the actual exception because the actual exception was eaten by this script, by this function, and checked against this regular expression. So now if someone changes the underlying module and it stops throwing exception, or the text of the exceptions changes, this test will fail. And then you will have to decide whether the change was the right one, the expected one, or then update your test, or that was by mistake, and then you have to fix the code again.